New York bodega owners, I didn't even know that they had a union, are mobilizing because they saying that it's not safe and a lot of their clerks and stuff is getting hurt, murdered, injured, and it's not safe in New York. Check it out.
Now to a man shot in the stomach in broad daylight in the Bronx.
A group representing bodega owners say that he was working as a clerk at a store when this all went down. Fox 5's Kendall Green is live in the Fordham Heights section of the Bronx with the very latest. Kendall?
Hey, good evening, Steve and Natasha. That bodega worker is in stable condition at the hospital recovering right now. But the United Bodegas of America, they say this shouldn't have happened to a bodega worker just simply showing up to work, doing his job.
Have y'all ever heard of the United Bodega Owners of America? I didn't know that that was a thing. Is that a union? I didn't know that that was a thing.
Sky Fox was over the scene of a midday shooting Wednesday just outside of the Gourmet Deli on Webster and 183rd Street in the Bronx, where police confirm a 33-year-old man was shot in the stomach before being rushed to the hospital.
This is totally out of hand.
Fernando Mateo with the United Bodegas of America identified the victim as bodega clerk Joseph Lewis.
What do they get from joining the United Bodega Owners or Workers of America? What do they get? Oh, United Bodega Owners. What do they get for that? Like, is that like a marketing thing? Is it to understand what's going on in this place? And so we're going to network over here and we're going to implement this. I don't know what they get out of that. I'm curious what that is.
Sharing what
Maybe
happened.
It's just a lobbying group. Who knows?
The client came in, created a mess, taking ice out of a refrigerator. As he came out, the person went in his car, took a handgun, according to the information we have, shot him inside of the bodega, once in the chest.
Police now stand guard at the store while the search for the gun.
Hold on. Listen, you know that we different over here at the Millionaire Morning Show. Oh, Mickey Shea says to keep black owners out. You can't keep a black owner out. If you want to open up a little convenience store that don't even make a whole lot of money and then you want to give yourself a job, you're more than welcome to be able to do so. Nobody can keep you out from opening up a bodega. That's not hard to do, to open up a bodega. It's not a monopoly on bodegas, okay? But forget all of that. Let me ask y'all a question. Who's scared of them? We basically recruiting babies to police our neighborhoods and women. Babies and women, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Who's scared of them? Harpo, who's scared of these women right here that's sitting there patrolling the bodega where somebody just got whop shebanged? I'm not. I am not scared of these two little girls over here with uniforms on. Having a uniform on does not make you scary. And this is the dangerous part of this diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we need to make sure that everybody can do any job, and then women can do what men do, and men do what women do. I know we going off track, but that's what we do on the Millionaire Morning Show. Get used to it. This is the danger that comes along with identity politics, equal everything. Men are not meant to do what some women are doing, and some women are not to do what men do. It's some jobs, some roles in society, me personally, that I just don't believe that women should be a part of, and it's some things that I don't think that men should be a part of that women can do. Anyways, let's continue.
Continues. They posted these posters around the neighborhood asking the public for help. Malik, a frequent customer at the store, knows the victim, saying he found the news troubling.
He's a family guy. He's always at the store working, kind to everybody. It's a good dude.
It is unacceptable that we have to live in fear.
Mateo and bodega workers are calling for the city to reinstate controversial stop and frisk policies and more funding for bodega cameras, panic buttons, bulletproof doors for protection. But the chief call to action:
we need to make sure, first and foremost, that our bodega owners get licensed weapons so that they can protect themselves and protect their community.
No, don't got licensed
Residents
weapons?
sharing their shock following the brazen shooting of a bodega clerk, considering it out of character near the store.
Right here is usually more peaceful. Right here, you know, we all know each other. We don't really fight with each other. I was kind of surprised to see the police out here.
Now, the NYPD is sharing this flyer asking anyone who has any
Look at this dude. What did y'all expect? Did y'all really um did y'all really expect for this to be any different than what we looking at right here? The usual suspects. All right, guy with a bucket hat on, another dude with a hat that's cocked to the back, and he got his braids out, so he ain't got his hair braided. They go get into it with somebody inside of the bodega, the worker. Go to the car, go get the gun, and then go and kill the worker. And that's it. Y'all don't have no regard for human life, bro.
Information regarding the shooting to come forward. But that's the latest in the Fordham Heights section of the Bronx. Kendall Green, Fox 5 News.
So that's what's happening over in New York in particular. Over in over in New York on another part in Long Island, Justin Timberlake was arrested for a DWI.
Major celebrity finds himself on the wrong side of the law.
Justin
I
Timberlake.
know y'all want me to mention the newscaster, but we already mentioned her before. We recognize her. She's pretty. Let's continue.
Arrested in the Hamptons on a DWI charge after police say he blew through a stop sign and veered out of his lane.
All right, Fox 5's Jody Goldberg joins us live from Sag Harbor with the latest on how this all unfolded. Jody.
He was in his house?
Stephen, Natasha, many celebrities hang out in the Hamptons, but it's not often you hear about them getting arrested. Police say Justin Timberlake blew a stop sign and he couldn't stay in his lane. And when asked to take a breathalyzer test, he refused 3 times. A first look at Justin Timberlake's mugshot after he was arrested for allegedly driving drunk on Tuesday morning. He told police, "I had 1 martini and I followed my friends home." But according to court documents, he had bloodshot and glassy eyes, smelled like alcohol, and performed poorly on all field sobriety tests.
Anyone can make a mistake, but he should have known better.
Surveillance video shows Timberlake behind the wheel of his gray BMW right before he was pulled over. Police say he ran a stop sign at Madison Street and Germain Avenue, and he couldn't stay in his lane.
They'll stop you at the drop of a hat out here. They're very, very strict. They won't let him get away with anything, even if he's a celebrity.
In today's day and age with technology and Uber, and especially someone like Justin with unlimited resources, there's no excuse to get behind the wheel.
Sources say Timberlake was coming from the American Hotel. It's a hot spot in the village of Sag Harbor, and it's also where singer Billy Joel was on Tuesday for lunch. Timberlake isn't the first celebrity under the spotlight in the Hamptons. In 2003, Joel swerved off the road and
Y'all crazy, bro. I see y'all jokes on the whole NSYNC. He wasn't in sync and Cry Me a River. I see y'all in the chat.
crashed into a tree.
Judge not, lest ye be judged.
News of the arrest spread quickly through what's normally a quiet village 100 miles east of New York City. The hotel Timberlake was at is next to the court where he was arraigned and pleaded not guilty. It's also across the street from his attorney's office.
I was staying at the American Hotel, and apparently he was there. You would think this guy has a driver. He's so famous.
I was surprised he'd be driving his own car in one.
Why do y'all think that people, just because they celebrities or just because they super rich or whatever like that, that they don't also like to do regular people stuff? Yeah, I do think that Justin Timberlake should have been a little bit more mindful, and that, you don't want to even get caught up. And this is really just an inconvenience. We know Justin Timberlake ain't going to no jail, right? So that ain't even a question. But y'all don't think that people, these celebrities and stuff, that they don't go to the store, or they don't, yeah, okay, if they doing a major event or whatever, they're going to have security. But most of the time, they just like to do regular people stuff like everybody else.
Respect. Yeah, and everyone really has to take accountability for their own actions.
Now Timberlake pleaded not guilty. He was released without bail. We reached out to his attorney and representatives. We haven't heard back. He has 2 shows at Madison Square Garden next week, and he's due back in court out here on July 26th. We're in Sag Harbor, Long Island. Jody Goldberg.
And then last but not least, I seen this come across my desk, but a lot of states are evaluating how to eliminate property taxes in order to keep people in their homes, and then I guess try to work on not being overburdened with taxes. Check it out.
Back here at home, several states are looking to eliminate property taxes to ease the burden on cash-strapped homeowners. But such a move won't be easy or cheap, and some warn that it could lead to a spike in taxes on income and sales. Here's ABC's Alexis Christoforous.
Tonight, some states are looking to lend a helping hand to homeowners feeling the pinch from rising prices, elevated mortgage rates, and now soaring property taxes. This week, lawmakers in Kansas will hold a special session to consider an annual cap on property taxes.
It would be helpful because right now it just feels like runaway property taxes. You don't know what's coming at you.
It'll be their fourth attempt at passing the measure. But proposals to curb property taxes, which pay for things like local schools, roads, and fire departments, have frustrated homeowners across the country and will appear on many ballots this year. Voters in Colorado and Georgia will decide to cap all property tax revenue. Nebraska may take up a similar measure. Idaho and Michigan are considering getting rid of property taxes altogether.
Now, you have to consider this, because I know it's the easy thing to do is just look at this and say, well, oh man, eliminating property taxes would be so beautiful. Well, A, it would cause inflation as far as the explosion of how much homes are costing that particular state. B, they would have to make up that revenue somewhere else. So it's not just the property taxes. And don't get me wrong, listen, if Michigan was to be out here and they eliminated property taxes, boy, I would absolutely benefit, not only as an investor with multiple different properties here in the state, but as an owner, and as a person that is a Michigan native. And so we would absolutely benefit. But where would the money come from? Because they still have a budget that they implement inside of the state that funds the infrastructure projects and all of this stuff. They would have to make it up somewhere else. And so they're going to make that up. It's similar to how some states don't have income taxes, right? And then if the state don't have income taxes, then they make that up with what? Property taxes, taxes on gas, a higher tax rate when it comes to goods and services. So they're going to make up the revenue some way, shape, or form. But at the same time, it also has to be conducive to business owners, and it has to be conducive to residents alike. And the problem, I think, with states is not just whether or not property taxes are exploding or anything like that, because that's largely how the counties get the money to fund your schools and stuff like that. And so you got to take that into consideration also. How are you going to fund your schools? Property taxes is largely the way that they, fund the services, and when you pull permits and build houses and the schools that's inside of your districts and stuff like that. So for somebody like me, I can afford to send my child, and my child is big now, so it wouldn't hurt me at all. But I can afford to send my child to private school. That's the biggest source of revenue that is dealing with sanitation services and, ultimately your kid going to school and what type of services and how good the school is as far as how well the teachers are paid and funded. Would y'all have to start raising millages and stuff like that, right? So it then starts to become a bigger burden and responsibility if you don't know what you're doing. But I think that this is a short gap or short-term, short gap measure to gain favor with the people, but I don't think that you can ever really truly eliminate property taxes personally.
Something experts warn could lead to a spike in income tax and sales tax.
If you set that number too low, you are tying the hands of your local government, and you're eroding their tax base.
Years of high interest rates and low inventory sending single-family home values up more than 50% nationwide since 2019. At the same time, the median property tax bill has jumped more than 26% to nearly $3,000 a year.
And then this starts to beg the question, right? Because a lot of people say it's always better to own than it is to rent. Well, not when you can't even afford to pay your property taxes, and your property taxes is jumping 26 and 54%, after a few years of you being in that particular residence. That's something that people don't take into consideration, right? When you go in and you get a mortgage, you don't just get a mortgage and say, okay, well, this is what my mortgage is going to be. Now, most lenders bundle the escrow that they withhold in order to pay your property taxes. PMI is in there, and PMI is so stupid for people to not put 20% down or try to hurry up and get to that threshold where you don't have PMI anymore, because it's basically you're paying insurance on you defaulting on the loan because you didn't put 20% down. Insurance, right? The regular insurance. So that's often at times also bundled in your house note. So your house note is still going to fluctuate even if you have a fixed rate based off of what your property taxes is going to continue to go up like. So, the true cost, and again, we ain't even talking about maintenance and none of that, but the true cost of home ownership is never just going to be whatever it is that you're paying in your house note. It's more than that. It's always going to be more than that.
Putting the squeeze on household budgets. Linnell Griffith, a mother of two, has lived in Kansas nearly her whole life. She says her family had sticker shock when the tax bill on their home went up nearly 40% in 5 years, which has meant less money for other things.
It means not as many gifts at Christmas time. It means not a family
40% in 5
vacation.
years.
It
40%.
means it affects our ability to pay for a college education.
Some experts say Wyoming is a good example of a state striking the right balance when it comes to property taxes. Instead of an across-the-board cut, lawmakers there recently capped annual increases and targeted additional relief to some seniors and veterans, ensuring that those homeowners who need help the most are getting it.
Here's the biggest part of this whole thing. I think that the biggest thing that our governments need to do, and when I say our governments with an S, I'm saying that on a federal level, on a state level, on a local level, is they need to operate just like a small business and they need to learn how to cut expenses. Because part of the reason why we paying more for everything is because we're being overtaxed already. And so they're depending on that revenue in order for them to do whatever it is that they want to do. And they don't balance our budgets as effectively, or they don't make sure that they spend our money as effectively as we think that they should as people that they serve, right? And so, we spend a lot of waste. It's so much government waste. And instead of them being a lot more efficient as a government, what they do is they continue to raise property taxes, like Tiffany Henyard over in Dalton. She'll raise property taxes or try to raise property taxes in order to cover for the misspending that's happening within her part of the state or her part of her city that she that she serves. And then the residents have to pay for it. And so we don't really pay attention to budgets, as far as us holding our legislators accountable and our mayors accountable and our city councilmen and our aldermen and our state government and our sitting in Congress and the government and Joe Biden. We don't hold them accountable for how they spend our dollars. We so easily finesse with these easy talking points and these stupid talking points. Oh my God, you need to vote because we're going to ban abortion and all this stuff. Nah, fam, where the money going and why are we paying so much in taxes? Then how come when I advance and I become more successful, I got to pay more in taxes? It's actually costing me more to live, or I take home less if I make $100,000, or if I make $85,000, my lifestyle largely is unchanged, or it goes down from somebody that makes $79,000 because you go into a whole nother tax bracket. If you make $79,000, right, and you married, and then you start making $82,000, $83,000, $84,000. Let's say that they gave you a raise based off of inflation or the cost of living adjustment or something like that. You take home less money at the end of the day. It's the dumbest thing ever. When you cross over in the other tax brackets, you take home less money. So you're not even incentivized to be the best version of yourself or to become even more successful to ultimately make more money to go into the tax coffers, because we do pay the majority of the taxes. Why? Unless we can figure out how to keep more money for ourselves. That's when you start businesses. That's when you start, hiring tax accountants and all of this stuff. When you start making enough money, you start flipping over to being conservative and more Republican, because you're like, hey, you taking all of my money and you giving it to the homeless people or building luxury homeless apartments and I can't even do nothing with it.